Good morning, retail traders. This is the Sneaky Snake trading strategy where I talk about chart patterns, moving averages, and being in the now. And right now we're going to talk about an AQST. One of my followers wanted me to go ahead and do a little short video on this, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about the company and try to give them supports and resistance levels and tell them why I personally like this stock. So it's AQST. I was messaged that this had some medication for epilepsy. Well, I've had epilepsy most of my life. I've had petit mal. If you know what petit mal epilepsy is, it's where you just kind of black out and your body functions keep moving, but you're blind, you're totally blind, and you're just invisible. You don't know nothing. You don't see nothing. You don't hear nothing. You just keep walking, or if you're in... A lot of people drowned with epilepsy. I had it when I was 11 years old, and it took three doctors, and my third doctor was an Asian doctor, and he had me hyperventilate, and I went right into a petit mal epileptic seizure. So after that, they subscribed me with a lot of heavy duty medications. They were more or less downers at the time. And this was when I was only 11 years old, and I'm 63 now. And then I developed grand mal epilepsy, where you went into total convulsions. And I probably had a lot to do with the way I partied and the way I lived my lifestyle at that time as a teenager in high school. So I realized I had to stop drinking. I had to stop doing a lot of partying things. I had to more or less just walk away from that lifestyle and go into another one. Now that I've been diagnosed with what you call juvenile epilepsy, where you're having a seizure in your brain every 3 minutes, and it's not noticeable. I can feel, I'm always hearing. I got rings in my ears, but I'm not actually going into a convulsion, or I'm not actually going into the petit mal epileptic seizure. I'm just having them every 3 minutes, and it's in my brainwave when I run the test. So I've been on all kinds of different medications. Now they've got one here that they will go right straight into the pipeline. And I read this Libervant in development as oral rescue therapy for breakthrough seizures, cluster seizures. And I'll probably look into that and see what that's all about. So I'm not more or less a fundamental trader. I'm a technical analysis trader. I've been trading stocks for 20 years. And when I find a stock that I'm interested in, I like to find the support on it and then maybe get an entry and then sell it at resistance. But they do have a nice little pipeline, and I think that's very good for a small company like this. And we're going to go ahead and go right straight to the chart. I've got different kind of charts I can use. First thing I want to do is pull up TrendSpider. I notice on TrendSpider that we're at a spot right now where there's not that much money invested in the trade, but we're above the VWAP, and we're also above the anchored VWAP. So as long as we stay above that anchored VWAP, we're still bullish. And that support's just a little bit around 220 right now, 217, somewhere in that area. And we did kind of break out of resistance above that VWAP. So it's going to be a little hard to kind of run up in here. Now this is on a weekly time frame, and we have the 200 SMA right around 312. So I think that would be my target to reach if we could get some volume. Now we've had some nice volume spikes in this trade before, and when you see that, it's a nice little bounce. So we're going to go straight to the charts on Ameritrade. We've had a nice little run right here in the past 5 days, a real nice run. Now this is an expansion run on through the upside. So there's different ways of charting this out. And first we're going to just kind of run some lines, some extended trend lines here. Well, let me see here. I'll get rid of that one. I'll go to this one right here and run it up against that. Then I'll take this one and run it up against that. So we did break out of that trend a couple of times, and we could do it one more time. We're at the top of that peak. Let's go ahead and pull up the daily time frame. We're at an all-time year high up here at 278, so the momentum's here. Now, is this too big of a run right now? I don't know. So far, the candle's telling me that we're still bullish in this trade. So I'm going to pull up the 3-week, and the 3-week, again, takes you to that 200 SMA, or I mean the weekly, takes you to that 200 SMA at 317. Now, that's a hard resistance. What we have here is a triple bottom, and then we knife down. So what we have to do is go ahead and we're going to draw a trend line for support. We're going to take the body of this candle right here and the body of that. Oh man, that brings you all the way down to the 50 SMA. Then we're going to take this here, what I would call a double bottom shoulder line, to right around 370. $370, and then your low support is going to be right around 325, or your resistance to break. And this is going to be a channel that you got to break through. I mean, there's a lot of resistance here, and as if we go back to that trend spider, all that, the least amount of money that people are willing to take this trade is between that VWAP and that $3 level. So if we bust $3 and we get up to that 317, I think you might have a nice little bounce if you're long in this trade to right around 4.25. Now it's going to have some headlines, and it did have some headlines here. Just recently, AQST Therapeutics has dosed first patient in phase 3 pivotal, and then pharmacokinetic. So I'm not good with big words. Study of epinephrine, anything within medical. I mean, it takes a genius to pronounce them words. Some of them probably can get them off real well. So it's in the phase 3 trial. Phase 3. That's real good on that. And that's just the latest news that came out. So if we start getting, this is going to be headline driven to bring the stock up. So we go back to the 1 hour time frame here. And we're going to do a Fibonacci extension, and that low support, which I like to see something when it breaks out like this and it does pull back. It could be right at that 50% pullback, and that lands right on that where that body of that wick is, which gives me some kind of indication. If it does start to pull back, we could have a solid support right around that 232 area. Right on the bottom of that channel, right on the bottom of that candle, right around there. So if it does decide to pull back, that's where if it's going to break resistance, right now it looks kind of bullish. But we've had the 5-day rule here where I think we need to consolidate to the right. And we're at that point, like I said, where there's not a lot of money invested in this trade right here. So if we get through this and we break the 200, we're definitely going to start to climb the mountain. And I'd say right around the $4. If it starts to kind of pull back or something, I would say no lower than that 173 would be your solid support. So let's go back to that chart again. Yeah, 173. And that brings you right to that trend line to where the 50 SMA is. And if we hit that, I'd probably start really adding on, loading the boat. Right around 174, I think I'd be a good spot to, I mean, if you're not in it already and it does pull back, or you're not, I think that would be a good spot to start your investment. We have 2 different support levels, actually 3. This one right here would be your first, right around 247, between 232 and 247, and then that final low support down here, and then your second support would be right around 209. And then a strong buy at 174 with a resistance to break on the weekly time frame, the 200 SMA, which is right around the 317, 311 area. If you can break that, you should be able to bring it up to 370 and hit this channel of this two-headed snake right here. Snake, breakout, pull back, boom. So that's going to be your hard resistance to break. You can see we had a support here and a support here, a triple bottom drop. So that triple bottom will now become a new hard resistance right around 370. So it's going to be headline driven. I wouldn't go all in on this trade at all unless it pulled back some and start accumulating shares. So that's AQST. It's had a real nice run, and we've had a breakout for the last 5 days. We got to give it the 5-day rule to consolidate, and then once it consolidates, we could start to go ahead and back up. So I'm kind of looking at something like this. Let's go back to that 1 hour. Something like this. It's not really, it's stair steps what it's done. Stair stepping on the 5-day rule. So it could come back and hit the bottom of this trend, and that's where I would start to sweat a little bit if it didn't hold that 260 area. As long as it holds that trend line, you're okay. And I'm going to use each one of these moving averages as a support level, the 50 and the 200. And I might even add the 65 in here. Let's see what the 65 does. $65 EMA. Or the 51. I'm surprised I don't have either. I was probably using this for a lesson. Let's do the 51. This right there, it's right at 247. So yeah, we got the 50 and the 51 right there. So I think that should hold. The way a lot of people look at this, if you're above the 9, you're still very bullish. And if we start to break below the 9, then it could drop down and hit the 21, the 51 EMA, the 21 SMA, and then a strong buy down here off the 200. That's AQST, Retail Traders. Sneaky snake trading strategy, where I talk about chart patterns, moving averages, and being in the now. So let's go with the 5-day rule, see if we consolidate today, and then maybe start to break out next week. But we need some kind of news now. It's in phase 3. Phase 3 is a wait and see, and then after the phase 3, that thing should kind of run up. You get FDA approval, the thing flies. So you got to be a little cautious right now and not try to really be very ambitious that this thing's going to break out. We got to take the 5-day rule and let it consolidate. Have a great day.